what you're going to use to analyze poetry is called SOAPs. So in order to do that, you need to think about what are SOAPs: speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, and symbolism. Okay, the speaker. It's basically like saying, who is the poem by? Not who it's about, but who's talking. So some questions you can ask yourself is, who's speaking in the poem? Who's talking in the poem? What are their character traits? How do they feel about the topic? They feel they like the topic? Are they angry about something? Okay, those are the important things to ask yourself as you're reading the poem. Okay, the next thing you're going to think about is the occasion. Okay, it's basically what, when, and where. What is the setting of the poem? This is just the basically, what is it about? What's the event of the poem? What situation is being experienced? Okay, this is the basic that everybody thinks about. Who or what is the poem about? Not who wrote it, but who is it about? Okay, you can ask yourself, is there a shift in the poem? Does it go from bad or good, or does it just describe something? So think about what kind of poem. Is it a descriptive poem? Does it tell a story? Does it have a theme at the end? What is the poem about? That's usually what people focus on, but we're going to take it further. Okay, the next thing is the audience. That's who is the poem to? If you think of a love song on the radio, it's written to somebody, right? Same thing in poetry. The poem might be written for your daughter or your friend, or somebody that you love, or somebody that you're mad at, okay? Who is this poem intended to be for? So you can ask yourself, for whom is the poem written? And then take it further. Don't just say their name, but what are their character traits? Are they young? Are they old? Young, old, rich, poor, what are they like? The reason the audience is important is because it's going to take us to the next step, which is the purpose of the poem. So purpose is basically the why. Why is this poem written? Why did the poet sit down to write this? Okay? A lot of times that reason is the theme or the message. Okay? Basically, what is the life lesson of this poem? What do they want to share? So this is basically one of the most important parts of poetry, if you think about it, is why is that poem written? What is the message? Why are you even reading it? Why does it exist? Finally, the last thing is symbolism. Now, this is the part that usually scares people about poetry. If you think of a poem, it has a lot of figurative language, similes, metaphors, personification. Okay, so what you want to do is focus on the stuff that seems important. Either it's at the beginning or the end, or maybe it's symbols that repeat, and think about what do these represent. So you can ask yourself, what do the symbols mean? Are there symbols that repeat? So we've always practiced circling them. If you think about a poem that is about wings, okay, and you see the word wings like a billion times, you should circle it. But it doesn't necessarily have to just be that word that repeats. Maybe we're reading a poem and it also talks about flying, or it talks about jumping, or it talks about being successful. See, now all these things mean the same thing as wings. So you can still circle that because it's the idea that's repeating. And then you have to look at it and you have to ask yourself, what does that symbol mean? Okay, then ask yourself, maybe there's important symbols at the beginning, the end of the poem. And of course, are they positive or are they negative? Because that's going to help you understand what the symbols represent. Okay, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, and then take it a step further and try to figure out what it means. So let's review all the SOAPs. First, we have speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, and symbolism. But those are basically the same thing as asking yourself who, what, when, where, to who is the poem written, why, and how. Okay, so ask yourself these questions as you're using the SOAPs. Let's go through some helpful tips. First, circle repeated words as you read. Pay attention to feelings and tone, happy and sad. And before you begin, circle the first and the last section of the poem. Okay? And go ahead and read those 3 times. So if this is your poem, okay, you're going to look at the first several lines and the last several lines. Maybe 3 to 5 lines, or the first and last stanza. Okay? Try to figure out what they mean. Try to figure out what they're saying. Once you have that, go ahead and look at the repeated things throughout the poem. And then try to put it all together. Read those several times, then go back and try to understand the rest of the poem. I promise you, it will help. Okay, so go ahead now and just quiz yourself. See if you understand the soaps without looking, and go back and review the ones that you don't understand.